this is an ambition to hold the world together that is being torn apart. Spiritual traditions that they say are worlds apart in reality are all part of a whole. It is no secret that this world needs healing. When the towers tumbled, where loved ones vanished beneath rubble, and our subtle differences muddled and manipulated and hastened towards hatred, who could have anticipated that from those ashes, the followers of Moses and Muhammad, the Christ Jesus, and all of the prophets would reclaim their truths. Peace be upon them, peace be upon us, peace be upon you.
This is a story of what's possible when a small, diverse group of men and women commit to the possibility of peace and brotherhood. This video is a celebration of those individuals and what they've accomplished these 20 years.
When the second tower fell apart and the news began to say this was possibly a terrorist attack, it dawned upon me that I had to do something in my mind to counteract this in some fashion.
We knew that there were going to be some disturbing things happening in the community after that, and there were. We knew that we just couldn't sit idly by and watch.
So my first call was to call up a friend of mine named Mohammed Markeshia.
Well, first we talked about the event itself. It was the worst time in U.S. history. Everybody was sad, and we talked about the event itself, but we also talked about how close Judaism and Islam were, and that misunderstanding that our followers of both of these faiths. So we talked about doing something about it. Let's get our communities together and have them have a dialogue.
I asked him, I said, do you know any leaders in South Florida I could have a discussion with about having a conversation between Jews and Muslims about peace and how we can, become better friends. A couple of days later, he called me with two friends of his. One was the Imam of Darul Uloom Mosque.
So David, he just gave me a call after 9/11. This was just a few days or a few weeks. He said, listen, Sheikh, we need to meet and we need to talk. And I went and I met him, and then we had a couple of meetings, and he invited a couple of people of the community, and that's how myself and him got involved. I got very involved in it and became the co-founder of this whole name, Jam and all.
He sat in my office in Hollywood, Florida, and we had the initial conversation. The name JAM came up as an acronym for Jews and Muslims. It also was an acronym, it also had a double meaning of a jam session, which the idea musically is that people from different instruments come together and improvise and make music together.
It was really, really, really interesting for David to agree for Jews and Muslims to come together.
I think Jews have stepped out historically many times. I'm not the first. I think Jews are very involved in the civil rights movement originally back in the 60s, and I think part of the Jewish teaching is to step out. The Gemara says, where there are no men, be a man. I called up my rabbi, Rabbi Shawnee Labowitz, and Rabbi Phil Labowitz. They were both the rabbis of Temple Adath Or.
Shawnee said, we're not at war with every Muslim. We should really tell Muslims that we're not going to attack them. We had a service. People, they were dying to pray. They needed to hold on to something. And Shawnee and I led a prayer service at that time. We prayed for the deceased. We prayed for the Muslims who were not involved.
I'll never forget sitting in the sanctuary when Reb Shani and Camrose and Florence and hundreds of other people gathered together after 9/11 and made a decision to have an organic movement in our community to reach out and to build bridges, to communicate and understand one another, and to really see the divine in everyone.
Even in a world that is unjust, can we just agree that what the world needs now is love?
After 9/11, the sentiments of people being afraid of Muslims and Islamophobia had skyrocketed, and I felt it was imperative that we must have dialogue between the faiths to bring a better understanding between us. Otherwise, the animosity would only grow and lead to more harm for everyone.
Definitely had some fear when we first started JAM, even though it was very exciting work. There was a lot of hostility amongst different groups, and people could feel it, targeted against Muslims, targeted against Arabs, Sikhs, women who wore the hijab, and there were scary times.
There was nothing but fear. My Jewish friends thought I'd get killed, and my Muslim friends thought that they would get killed, and everybody was just really, really very nervous that this is not the time to have that conversation. And I felt from my background as a son of a Holocaust survivors, that it's exactly the time to have the conversation.
I felt some of that fear myself in the early years. I didn't actually know any Muslims personally in 2001, and I had never been to a mosque. And those stereotypes of radical Muslim terrorists definitely infected my consciousness to a certain point. Even though I knew that they were stereotypes, I knew that they were fear-mongering, but they still affected me, and I still definitely felt some of that fear.
Some people in JAM were kind of warned by their friends that this could be dangerous. I think people were mostly sort of puzzled and really didn't understand why I wanted to reach out and make a connection with people who were different. And to me, that was the heart of the matter.
Let every pulpit sing a song of peace and praise, and let that be our religion.
After 9/11, I could see that our government was whipping up sentiment to support a war, and also that Muslims were being scapegoated, and that both of those things were going to get a lot worse. So I went looking for a peace group to get involved with. JAM was the only one that I found that was working for something rather than against something.
I got involved with JAM almost at the beginning. David Kamrat brought a panel of Jews and Muslims to Temple Adathor after services early in October, within a month after the tragedy of 9/11.
A sister friend asked me to attend a meeting for her. You know, she had a family emergency in New York. At that meeting, I was introduced to JAM and all Interfaith.
Many asked if I was sure I knew what I was doing. As I got involved with JAM and all, I knew that this was an interfaith group that can take our parishioners at the Margate Mosque to another level. Being involved in interfaith would be a great way for the members to know about other faiths besides Islam.
Some members of the Social Action Committee and other friends at the temple were on board with this project. Some just figured it was another thing that Fran would get involved in because she did stuff like that.
Remember, we used to have meetings at Cathy Leonard's home, all the way in Boca Raton?
Yes.
And we used to have meetings in David Kamrat's office. And most of the events in the early days, we would have these programs and functions and events in Darul Uloom.
About 19 years ago, I was closely associated with Darul Uloom Institute, and I heard that they were having a meeting. When I got there, there was a wonderful group, a mix of people, Jews and Christians and Muslims, and I thought it was an excellent opportunity for me to get involved in achieving one of my missions in life. at that time I decided to join Jam and All.
My earliest memory of Jam and All is attending an event at Darul Uloom. It was a family fair. At that time I was a non-member. I witnessed members of the Jewish and Muslim community interacting with one another in such a peaceful and trusting manner. Coming from a background interracial, interreligious, intercultural, from Trinidad and Tobago, I thought, you know what, let me become a member so I can continue doing what I did in my life at Trinidad and Tobago.
In the beginning, I only went to the meetups, the monthly meetings where we sat in a circle and shared our opinions, strength and hope with one another.
The first time I went to a Jam event, there was a very large circle of chairs. I remember how I got to know the people on the sides and how many people fit in that circle. And for me, it was an example of what all my involvement with Jam has been like.
The most exciting event was a peace festival, and this drew about 300 people.
I've attended so many of our picnics, our panels, iftars, interfaith services, many other kinds of events.
We have done interfaith cafes, bringing together groups for discussion and food.
Jam Slam and Season of Kindness, always with the goal of connecting with people, sharing really meaningful interfaith content, bringing people together.
Then there was a 2017 annual retreat at which I not only did some of the planning, I performed with Laura Sue.
We did a class at Broward Community College, Peaceful Pairings, which put together a group from a synagogue and a neighboring mosque.
Children of Abraham dialogue. Bringing the two faiths together with a curriculum as a guide was beneficial. And I, of course, being a liaison and a member of the Margate Mosque, it was only fitting that I pair up with our local temple. I met the beautiful Fran Kraft.
Sophia and I met and we planned out what we were going to do. 1 month at the mosque, 1 month at the temple.
We got to work. She was on the same page as I was, doing the same things. And I was like, oh my God, I've met a sister who is doing the same exact things at her place of worship that I am doing at my place of worship. Social activities.
We used the Abraham curriculum because it was so focused.
This allowed so much more growth between our Jewish brothers and sisters at the Temple Beth Or, along with our Margate Mosque, to pair up on a monthly basis and learn about each other's commonality. So many of the group sessions that we had, not only did we focus on our commonalities with the curriculum topic, but we also became friends.
How did we keep it going? We served food.
Each of the things that I've done has brought me closer to what I think is the goal for religion. And that's a greater sense of acceptance and seeing the good in other people.
This is not a revision of history, but re-envisioning of our future.
The women's group brought women from different backgrounds out together in a living room, in an area where they felt comfortable and at ease, speaking about various topics that affected them.
It seemed to be extremely well received, well attended, and very, very informative for all of us. And on top of it all, we really all enjoyed each other's company.
We ate, we laughed, we talked for 20 minutes before the meetings began.
I think the impetus for forming the women's group for Jam and All came from Rabbi Shani Labowitz of blessed memory of the Temple Adath Or, which was one of the founding organizations, congregations of Jam. She thought this was the time that we need to get together as women and talk heart to heart.
The women's group touched on various topics that were in depth, and reach to the core of women that sometimes we need to share our stories.
The women really had more in common than they had apart. And their religious and cultural views really took a back seat.
Dr. Florence Ross, an early activist, asked me to facilitate the women's group.
We thought we could push the envelope with the group of diverse women. I created an exercise that would allow everyone to share their widely held beliefs of the other's faith. I called it, what have you heard? What have you read? What have you talked about? What have you whispered about? Jews, Muslims, and Christians.
And the topic of abortion came up. And oh my, was that resonant among everyone there. And after that, it gave the whole group such a understanding of love and appreciation and support on a moral level. Women were able to reach out to each other after that session and share even more.
I became so impressed by the women who attended. Their openness, their honesty, their willing to share about their cultures and their thoughts. I decided I wanted to join.
Turned out to be an amazing 7-year journey with the women's group.
We really ultimately are all human beings with similar goals and desires in our lives for peace and security for ourselves and our families.
Who could have anticipated that from those ashes, the followers of Moses and Muhammad, the Christ Jesus, and all of the prophets would reclaim their truths?
I must say that I had never been exposed to any kind of interfaith dialoguing or gathering prior to 9/11, and I think it was a critical part of my expanding my heart and my soul and receiving everyone as we are brothers and sisters.
JAM has taken up a big part of my life for the last 18 years. It reshaped me to open up myself and to accept things that I didn't know about before.
Working with JAM was kind of like knowing each other deeply and profoundly, like going to each other's homes and breaking bread and having parties, enjoying each other's culture and food. It was really true caring, and it's friends for life.
And when 9/11 hit, it sort of gave me a lot of purpose and meaning. And what was powerful about it is that you saw the immediate results.
Knowing that there are people of who are different from me that I can turn to for moral support, and I can be there for them as well, which is a very big thing in my life.
I've become so much more diverse and more sound with understanding the different faiths that I've learned about the past 20 years with JAM and all.
I've learned that religion does not divide us. It is our ignorance of each other's beliefs, not knowing that our human spirituality is our common bond. I think that is what you learn when you come to a JAM dialogue, and we accept each other. We embrace each other's differences, and that's the beauty of it.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Havenu shalom aleichem. Havenu shalom aleichem. Havenu shalom aleichem. Havenu shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam, salam, salam alaikum. We're bringing peace unto you. Shalom, salam, salam aleikum. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti. Shalom, salam, Shanti Aleichem.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Peace unto you. Shalom Aleichem.
This is an ambition to hold a world together that is being torn apart. Spiritual traditions that they say are worlds apart in reality are all part of a whole, and the whole is holy. Our saints are sacred. Even in a world that is unjust, can we just agree that what the world needs now is love? Let that rise above the threshold of every mosque, synagogue, and church. Let every pulpit sing a song of peace and praise. And let that be our religion. This is not a revision of history, but re-envisioning of our future, where our great sacrifice is a sacrament, where what is sacred is safeguarded. 20 years is not the place to end, but just a place we started, with the belief that there is no sacrament more sacred than the heart is. It is no secret that this world needs healing. When the towers tumbled, where loved ones vanished beneath rubble, and our subtle differences muddled and manipulated and hastened towards hatred, who could have anticipated that from those ashes, the followers of Moses and Muhammad, the Christ Jesus, and all of the prophets will reclaim their truths. Peace be upon them, peace be upon us, peace be upon you.
All the years I had an office as a counselor, I had a sign in my office that said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing."
In the Quran, there's an ayat that God spoke, "O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and I made you into nations and tribes, that ye may know each other, not that you may despise each other."
The number of hate crimes in this country, in particular hate crimes directed specifically against religious groups, has been on the increase. And as a response to this, Jam and All decided to host a conference in February of 2020, and it was entitled Transforming Bigotry and Hate from Awareness to Action. And the conference really had two goals. The first one was to raise awareness of the root causes of the hate and bigotry that underlay all of these violent crimes. And second, to examine how we as individuals and as a caring community can take positive steps to make a difference. We had a panel discussion of faith leaders discussing bigotry in their own faith tradition and what they had experienced. We had a discussion on recognizing and becoming aware of our own biases, and many of us don't realize that we have biases. The keynote speaker for the conference was Arno Michaelis, a former leader of a white supremacist group who is now a practicing Buddhist.
A reformed white supremacist was the main speaker. Why were we having such a controversial speaker?
He shared his story of transformation, how the love and concern and kindness of other people literally transformed his life. And one of the most powerful lessons that he addressed was the importance of learning how to truly and deeply listen to another person, even if, and especially when their viewpoints are very different from yours.
I'm going to share with you my technique when I'm working with someone in a white nationalist group. And I'm talking to them about changing their hearts and their minds and living their life in a better way. The first thing I did And the first thing I do, as was mentioned in the workshop reports, is listen. If you want someone to listen to you, it's a good thing to model that behavior first of all. So if you listen to someone else, and I know it's difficult when they have opinions that are essentially saying you don't have a right to exist. That's not an easy thing to do, but it is very effective. And it's all the more effective when you can, after you've listened to that person, to say, like, you know, what you believe threatens me. It threatens who I am. I feel threatened. I feel unsafe because of those opinions that you have, because these are the actual effects on me. You're not going to get to that point of dialogue until you listen first.
We discovered that bigotry was part of his family culture, that being part of a supremacist group gave him an identity and power. He changed his views when he was exposed to the kindness of people he was taught to hate.
Arno talked about kindness and love as being the thing, the agent, the transformative agent of change for him. I was so impacted by that, and recognizing that our kindness to an individual and our love for an individual can really melt the heart.
Hopefully the more this type of thing is talked about, the more it can spread. The more we talk about issues and problems, the more likely we are to discover solutions.
It was an exciting day. We had between 150 and 200 people from many different faiths. And one of the best things for me, just observing what was going on, was what happened at lunch. People from different faiths, different perspectives, different backgrounds would gather around a table over a meal and just talk and share ideas. It was so exciting.
A great panel of religious leaders in our community to really illustrate that we all have common aspirations. We all have common goals.
My name is Sydney Seeley. I'm with Students for Peace, and after today, I'm much more aware of my biases and prepared to put myself in situations that I feel uncomfortable for growth.
Participate in workshops and functions such as this is a step toward coming back to our space of being one with all.
In our Torah, we read, Vayipach ba'apov nishmas chayim. When God breathes spirit into your nostrils, as it says in the workings of creation in Genesis, that is a kiss, that we share breath together with God. When we sit in a room, anyone who is breathing, anyone who has the spirit to communicate, has the power to love each other the way that God loves us in that first breath.
Om Namo Shivaya.
This is a vision. This is a vision where division does not subtract from us, but differences are additions. This is an ambition to hold a world together that is being torn apart. Spiritual traditions that they say are worlds apart in reality are all part of a whole, and the whole is holy.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Peace be unto you.
Peace be upon you. Peace be upon you.
Peace be with you.
It is time for us as human beings to enlarge our viewpoint, raise our conscious levels.
There's so much diversity in this world at the moment that we need to bring people of different faith, people of different racial background, culture, in a place where we can encourage them to live in harmony, peace, love, and understanding.
My participation with Jam and All Interfaith has taught me that interfaith isn't just interesting, it's important. And being with Jam has exposed me and opened me to so many blessings, like the blessing of engaging with social issues and the world through the lens of faith, but not restricted to one faith's lens.
People who do not understand Judaism or Jewish people have a tendency of negativity toward Jewish things, Jewish people.
Lay people can meet together in community, become friends, and this friendship and love will spread out wherever they go.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, this is the only thing that ever has.
Now when I see anyone expressing fear, hatred, or stereotype of Muslims, I always speak up, and I invite them to come to a JAM event.
We have effectively managed to bring people of different faiths and persuasions to the table, where they can meet, greet, speak, and get to know and understand one another in a safe, cordial, and amiable forum where they can engage in conversations. They're always free to speak their mind, meet one another, and understand and appreciate each other. And that has helped a great, great deal in bringing about that common understanding and creating the bond.
It changed my life for the better. It replaced ignorance with truth and discovery, and it built lasting relationships where there were none. And I think we're needed.
What I admired about JAM, it had a lot of love, a lot of socializing. Strength of JAM, and I got to share this because of being, a former president of other interfaith council, etc. One of the strengths of JAM was the socializing effect. There was a sort of fraternity, friendship, and bond that was built between the members.
Yes.
And that is the strength of JAM.
Yeah.
In our Psalms, we read, Hayotzer Yachad Libam, Hamevin El Kol Ma'asehem. God forms everyone from the same heart. And when you know this, you will understand everything.
I am amazed at how many great events we've had, how many picnics we've had, how many mosques and churches and synagogue events we've had, and how over the 20 years, I don't even know of one incident of violence or even unruliness that ever happened in a JAM meeting.
As part of the board, I have been given this opportunity to be involved in so many different events in the last few years. We used to have interfaith cafes where we would invite people to come to our mosque from all backgrounds and all faiths. It opened up a new world for me.
Such a great thing for me personally to collaborate with such a like-minded, loving, spirited, and talented people in helping to build interfaith peace in our communities. The bridge building work and the peace building work are so important in this time.
Being with JAM has helped me to get to know beautiful people, beautiful inside and out, in the fullness of their individual, diverse identities, including their faiths.
I continue to be convinced that there's such a richness of community and connection in JAM and All Interfaith, and that's why I continue to go.
I would not be the person that I am today if I did not respect that relationship with people of other faiths.
Being a member of JAM and All has broadened my horizon of knowing the amount of peace and love that's out there in the world, and knowing what a big difference I can make.
I think the future of interfaith is going to depend on groups like ours. We're finding burgeoning numbers around the country and around the world. So what we do and the way in which we're able to engage people will shape what creates the future of interfaith.
Just knowing that I can make a small change and I can bring out positivity around the people around me and bring out that positive energy it's been an amazing experience. It gives you the message of hope, and yes, we cannot change the whole world at the same time, and it's going to take a long time, but one small step can go a long way. And that's what Jam and All has taught me, and I've been honored to be a part of it.
I realized that I could be a beacon for hope, understanding, acceptance, and respect.
We have just established a youth arm, which is Jam and All Interfaith Youth. And that group, starting with high school students and college students, are meeting together to create their own type of activities which will engage the next generation. There is great hope for the future.
I'm a junior in high school, and I work with the social media team as well as the youth initiative within JAM. I became a part of JAM less than a year ago, but in my time since, I've been fortunate enough to learn from so many amazing people. It's been extremely insightful, and I'm so lucky to be exposed to new perspectives and be able to broaden my way of thinking.
Each generation will need to discover and learn from the other, hopefully, as we've done in Jam and All.
Interfaith work of JAM or any other interfaith group is extremely important in attaining a society in which people are open to the ideas of others. Interfaith discussions are monumental in learning about each other and moving forward with success. JAM has given me many wonderful opportunities that I never would have been exposed to otherwise.
I feel that organizations like Jam and All Interfaith will be needed forever until we replace conflicts, bigotry, and hatred with acceptance, knowledge, and love. Until we have a more divine world, we will need to continue the conversations.
Come on, everybody, put your hands together. It's got to get better. All over the world, listen to these words. People come. People come. People go. People go. Your life has been out of control. You're confused. But don't worry your soul. It will get better. It's gotta get better. It will get better. It's gonna be better. It will get better. 'Cause God is in control, y'all. Hey. Thank you, Lord. Hey. What about Ferguson? Even in Chicago, God's gonna make it better. Hey, it will get better. 'Cause God, He's in full control. Oh, thank you, Lord. Hey. Gotta get better.